Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for being with us today, episode number 36. I have to keep looking myself. Wow, it has gone fast, and thanks to you for liking and subscribing to us on YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, please do. Please tell your friends to subscribe, especially the horse racing friends, because they're kind of the last to get into social media by and large. Tell them to like and subscribe on YouTube. It's very simple. Open a Google account and you push it in. You have to like it one time. You don't have to like us ever again and subscribe to us ever again. And, of course, thank you for listening on 93.9 The Ville in Louisville, my friend Drew Diener and the gang down there. And let's see, iPad, iTunes, Google Play, Facebook, at Horse Racing Show. Wow, I think we've covered about everything except who's on the show today. Hall of Fame jockey Julie Krone returns. She's written a book along with her husband, Jay Hovde, called One Sweet Ride, about Candy Ride winning the Pacific Classic in '03, and all the people involved. Ron McAnally, Sid, and Jenny Craig. It's a terrific read. And she will join us along with Frankie Lovato Jr. He's the guy that came up with the Equicizer. You've probably seen it. It's a little like a wooden horse, but you pull it. It's got springs in it. It works your arms. Jockeys use that to work out with, and together they support Junior Jockey Camp. So I'll explain more about that. And then one of my favorite people in the business, Tom Ludt, will join us. He's been with the Breeders' Cup. He's been with Santa Anita, was with Vinery, I think, when we first met long ago. He's now the president of Phoenix Thoroughbreds, and he always has a great take on what's going on in the industry. So, we'll put on the big boy pants and talk to Tom Ludt, because I'm sure it'll be no holds barred. Let's lay it out as it is, or at least as we see it. And we've got our own show, so that's all that matters. That's the way we see it. I see with me again our top researcher, Mr. Thomas Kenny.
Hey, everybody.
Lead guitar, of course, Scott Hall.
Hello.
On bass, Ben Chaffins.
How's it going, world?
Good. Welcome in, you Taylor Swift fans, you.
That's not true.
Oh, okay, because I bring this up because Taylor Swift, who I guess is as big a name as there is in music right now. Everybody knows her. When you listen to her music, I'm familiar with her. Not all of her songs, but I'm familiar with her. And I'm familiar that she's done a lot of nice work, a lot of charity work. My sister's friend had a friend who had sent a thing in to Taylor Swift. I guess she had posted it on her Twitter account, which has I don't know how many million followers, that the first 100 people that responded were invited basically like to a cookout at her house in Nashville a year or two ago. And this girl responded and got one of the invites. And she said Taylor Swift was great. She came around and met everybody and put pictures, and they fed them, and they just had a wonderful time. And you hear about all the great work she does, the charity work she does. She's very broad-minded. She's taken some political stances lately. But she has canceled a personal appearance at the biggest race in the Southern Hemisphere, the Melbourne Cup, coming up in November. Now, according to her people, I wish I had people. Well, y'all are kind of my people. I don't mean like people. Like I say, I got people out there just saying stuff for me. According to Taylor Swift's people, she has canceled this event because of a scheduling conflict of a tour that she's doing in Asia. But when it was announced on September 12th that she was going to be coming to the Melbourne Cup and entertaining, and the Melbourne Cup is like the Kentucky Derby of the Southern Hemisphere. This is huge in Australia. One of the many countries we are listening into, by the way, beautiful country, that PETA sent a letter to her, and yes, a horse had died in the Cup, and several have died over the years. Not anything like a Santa Anita situation that we experienced here earlier. So anyway, that's it. So anyway, she decided she's not going. And something called Horse Kills, or some Twitter account, also said, oh, that's great, Taylor Swift's not going. It's a barbaric sport. So I hope that's not the reason that Taylor Swift isn't going. We'll give her the benefit of the doubt that she does have a conflict and she can't show up for it. But I hope she wasn't pressured into it, because for all the good things, and who doesn't love dogs and animals in general, that PETA can do, they overreact so much, like in a case of a horse racing situation. It's a very tough sport. Most vets will tell you about 3 out of 1,000 horses will probably have an injury that will result in being euthanized. It's a sad part of it. These horses, thoroughbreds, are bred for this. This is not like trying to apologize. Quit apologizing for horse racing. There is risk. There is danger. There's danger for jockeys. So it's a dangerous sport. It's also a very exciting sport. And when PETA says Bad, get rid of horse racing. Don't support horse racing. Forget the guys that made millions of dollars, the owners, some of the trainers, a few of the jockeys. Remember the people on the backside. This is their livelihood. This is the way that they work. And trust me, they take great care of these horses. 99% do, because that's their livelihood. They don't want a horse that's going to break down. They don't always get money for these horses. They don't always have them insured for the value. So Taylor Swift, you're always welcome to come on this show, like that would ever happen. But Taylor, you're always welcome to come on. We can talk about your all-time hit song, Teen Spirit. No, that wasn't it. I know.
Taking a page out of my book.
Now, yeah, Thomas. Now we'll get all the Nirvana guys still around that might show up. No, shake it off. So just shake it off, Taylor. And remember, take another look at horse racing. Maybe you'll show up at the Breeders' Cup. The Breeders' Cup ought to be all over this right now. Thank goodness I'm doing this podcast. If it weren't for me, what would they would have no ideas over there. They should be saying, hey, let's see if we can convince Taylor Swift to come out to Santa Anita, just take a look around and see. This is not the carnage. This is not the barbarian system that we have in horse racing, and you might enjoy it. So, and then maybe next year she'll go down to Melbourne Cup.
I have a lot of respect for Taylor Swift, both as an artist and as a human being. So I like you said, I give her the benefit of the doubt that she wouldn't just, sort of knee-jerk react.
Yeah, I think
pull
so.
out of this for a reason as simple as, it's a barbaric sport. I give her the benefit of the doubt. I feel like she would, at least do some research into, how the animals are treated before
I do too.
Making a decision based off of that.
That's well put, because, everything that I've ever read about her, she's really nice. Mm-hmm. And seems to be incredibly nice to her fans. And as Ben Chafin's pointed out, changed the music industry, Ben. She said, hey, it's my music. My fans want it. They'll download it the way we want them to, the way that's good for everybody, the way we want people to download this show in a safe, convenient way.
That's right.
With no royalties coming to me. Okay. Let's see. Today we're going to have Julie on, Frankie Lovato Jr. in just a few minutes. They've got a book. There's a lot of books out there for horse racing. I don't know how many I've read on horse racing. I really don't. Handicapping books in general. I just read One Sweet Ride, Julie's book that's out. I probably read 5 dozen horse books about horses or horse racing over the years. What are some of the more popular ones, Thomas?
Well, there's always going to be handicapping books.
Yeah.
Handicapping, whether you support it or not, is integral to the sport, right?
Right.
And so you've got, on both sides of the spectrum, more serious books like Picking Winners, which is from 1975.
Uh-huh.
You've also got Betting on Horses for Dummies.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Dummies series, always
the Dummies series.
Quick and easy read,
Yeah, that's probably, it's like the old, like when I was a kid growing up, when I was in high school, or in college even.
Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes. And what was those books? What was that? It was a comic book that you could read that'd be like Last of the Mohicans or something. They'd make it into a comic book form. So you had in about 30 pages, you got the synopsis of the book. It was like American Classics or something. A Tale of Two Cities. They had so many of them there. Not that I ever read them for a book report. I'm just saying they were available. Where they also sold Superman comic books. Okay, Thomas, but anyway, I digress.
We've also got friend of the show, Lenny Schulman. He wrote that wonderful book on Justify.
Yeah.
That's in the, Amazon list of top sellers.
It should be. It's a great book.
We've got The Horse God Built, book about Secretariat.
Mm-hmm.
Book about American Pharaoh, written in 2016. We've got Out of the Clouds, which is... When did that come out? Let me see.
What is it?
2018.
2018. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so horse racing books are still popular. And people like horses, they always will. I just think they will. They like animals. I like animals. PETA likes animals to a point. They don't like animals if they don't suit them or something. I don't know. Taylor Swift, please come on the show sometime. Meanwhile, coming up next, a book we'll talk about, One Sweet Ride, Julie Krone, Frankie Lovato Jr., and later on, President of the Phoenix Thoroughbreds, Tom Ludt, joins us only here on the Thoroughbreds Show. It's a wonderful little thing we put together called The Horse Racing Show, because it's about horse racing. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show, episode 36. We hope that you are following and liking us and subscribing to us on YouTube, like I know our next two guests are. It's very important to get that YouTube subscription rate up, and listening to us on Google Play and on iTunes and on 93.9 in Louisville. She is back. Always enjoy talking with Hall of Famer Julie Krone, who has written a terrific book along with her husband, Jay Hovde, called One Sweet Ride. It is about Candy Ride winning the 2003 Pacific Classic. And like it says in here, it celebrates the magical collaboration of a Hall of Fame jockey, a Hall of Fame trainer, a celebrity couple, that would be Sid and Jenny Craig, and a fabulous thoroughbred. And I recommend this book, One Sweet Ride. And joining us also with Julie is Frankie Lovato Jr., who had a really solid career in his own right, over 1,600 wins, and he's the guy that came up with the Equicizer. You've seen jockeys work out with them. That's because of Frankie. And they have something in common, too. We're going to talk about their involvement with junior jockeys. I'll get the official title from them. That's why they're on the show. So, Julie, Frankie, welcome in.
Well, thank you very much. Quite an introduction. I'm glad to be here.
And you guys now, you have in common your association of working with young jockeys. And Julie, I know you just had your first junior jockey camp up in Saratoga, I believe, this summer.
Yes, we did. We had it at the Long Shadows Farm, and it is directly a result of Frankie Lovato Jr.'s work that he's done, and it's his whole plan. I just copied it all with his blessings, obviously, and then it just was really fun. It was really fun to take his program and add the horses to it, and I couldn't have done it without him.
Well, Frankie, congratulations on this. You came up, I believe, with the concept to introduce young people to basically what it's like to be, if you want to be a jockey or an exercise rider, some of the basic things you need to know. Is that kind of the premise of the junior jockey camp?
Yes, basically, it's an avenue for mostly kids that want to get into horse racing and just don't know where to start, how to start, and because of the Equicizer, I just seem to run into a lot of these kids over so many years. And so basically what I decided to do is start an organization and build a platform where it's accessible online. They can go online. We have basically groups of accessible where they can join, be members, talk amongst each other, and I just created all these learning tools where they can learn about horse racing the proper way.
And the camp, is there an age limit? Is there a cutoff for either too young or too old to be in this?
Well, this year it was kind of interesting, and Frankie, I didn't do hardly any of the planning without Frankie guiding me a little bit in some way, except for once in a while I had to make an executive decision and go off of Frankie's plan a little bit because we had two younger kids come. We had one. Well, actually, one was really young. She was 9, and their oldest was 18. And we just, because of the 9-year-old's experience and dedication, and her parents, they ended up sponsoring one of the other kids and stuff like that. So, the rules are for us to make, and the whole thing was to get a nice group of kids together. And she fit all the criteria. So 9 years old is the youngest so far that I've taken, and she did a wonderful job. And then the oldest for us, I think, was 18 this summer. But it was really fun too because I think she went to see about getting a job on the backside already. Because when they left us, the last day they could pony. They could pony a racehorse. They could tack up. They knew where the poles were on the racetrack. They could pretty much, I'm pretty sure, trot almost, not everything but the toughest racehorse, maybe backwards. Trot them backwards once. And they knew a lot of lingo and a lot of the way you talk, like, hey, back them up to the half-mile pole, like, just like fun stuff when because Frankie made this design for this little racetrack, and the first time I ever went to the racetrack, I broke off at the wrong pole and breezed the horse the wrong distance. So I would have loved it if somebody would have taken my hand and taught me the poles and stuff like that, because there was so much other stuff that I was learning at the time. But it's just really fun to know that if there was like 12 of them, like half of them could have probably gone to the racetrack and got a hot walking job or a job ponying horses.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, Frankie, I know how you got involved. Your dad is a successful jockey. I mean, I guess it was natural you would be, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm the youngest of 4 kids that my parents had, and I was the only one that took an interest in horse racing, and I was obsessed with it since the age since I was 4 years old. I remember people telling stories about me that I don't even remember. But my tack bag was packed when I was 4. So I was ready.
Do you remember the first time it was for real out there on the track? I guess you were an exercise rider. I don't know. I guess that came before your first race, or when you were out there, exercising a horse. Do you still remember that moment when you were at the right pole to take off?
Oh, I mean, there's several levels to that. There was a time when I wasn't supposed to be on the racetrack yet.
I had one of those too, Frankie. My mom forged my birth certificate. First time I galloped at Churchill Downs, I was only 15, so yeah.
And you had to be 16. You had to be 16.
Finish your story. Yeah. Wait, what was your rest of your story, Frankie?
Oh, well, no, when I was a kid, they used to let me get on the stable pony, and one time they snuck me onto the track with a set of horses. And the pony somehow must have known that I wanted to go fast, and he ran off with me. And the outrider caught me, and nobody said a thing, and they just kind of snuck me off the track. But I was like, man, that was fun.
That's awesome.
So, we're talking with Julie Krone and Frankie Lovato Jr. They're doing great work with these junior jockey camps, and a new book out by Julie, One Sweet Ride, that she wrote with her husband, the very talented Eclipse Award winner himself, Jay Hovde. Did you write most of the book, or did Jay write most of the book, Julie? And I hope he's listening. I know he'll be listening to the interview.
I mean, he is the writer.
Oh, I know that. I'm kidding.
But I was ever present. Like, I helped interview Jenny, which I'm really happy I did, because I learned so many things about her, and what an amazing woman. Oh my gosh, the way that she worked and put her company together, and it literally took hours and hard work of her being present and like keeping it going, and sometimes it seemed like her world that she was in was a little bit parallel to mine sometimes, because sometimes the guys could give her a tough time,
Yeah.
And she was kind of the only woman in a room a lot of times, and it was kind of cool to hear her stories about how she faced her fears and did publicity stuff, and worked her butt off and did TV spots and promoted and used her ideas to make her business a really successful business. And so it was like really cool to hear the stories. And the book has photos that have never been seen, a couple of them. And the stories are just so unique, because Jay Hovde, when he puts a story together, it's just beautiful.
Oh, he's a terrific writer. You know that. I've known Jay forever.
The way he captures Candy Red's, the way he is personality-wise, and then just there's so many photos in the book too that are really fun, and I think anybody who likes racing will definitely enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then the money, Jenny was so nice to donate the books and to jockeyworld.org, and the money goes to our jockey campers coming up this summer.
So if you want to buy the book right now, the best way for our listeners around the globe listening in, by the way.
The only way.
The only way.
The only way.
and that is to go to the website?
Jockeyworld.org. Yes, sir. You go on there, and One Sweet Ride will be there. Frankie's linked it on here, and one of the other great talents he has, not only being a junior jockey camp teacher and maker of ideas, but also he's really good at the computer stuff.
I bet he is. I mean, first off, when I first saw the Equicizer, geez, I don't know, maybe a year or two after he's out. 82, I think, Frankie's when you invented it. Is that right?
My first one was way back when I was recovering from a racing accident, and at that point, I had no intention of starting a business with this, but the publicity that it had gotten and other riders just were. Like,
I wanted
man,
one right away.
Yes, Julie was actually one of my very first of 5 exercises I ever built.
And at Junior Jockey Camp, Frankie got to see the horse again because the horse is at Long Shadows Farm.
Yeah.
And by Saratoga, and it was funny because Frankie had his brand new, beautiful Equicizer, the Supreme model. It's on wheels. It's like 16 hands tall, so you can practice your leg up.
Wow.
It's like it's so beautiful. It's like top of the line, and then way down on the ground is the little tiny, 10th Equicizer he made or whatever in like 1983. I don't even remember. It was like, but it was so cute because the difference. It looked like. It had like a funny head, and the cable was inside all broken, and you could hardly get it to pick its head up. But those junior jockey campers, they rode that. They loved it because every Equicizer kind of served its purpose. Like, the big one was perfect, and you could look really good, and then the little older one, the real old one, the one on the first, it was kind of like hard. You had to pick its head up and down, so it really helped to develop that other set of muscles. So, but it was just fun to see the difference, right, Frankie, of how the first one looked compared to the newest one?
Yeah. And I think people know what the Equicizer is. I know race fans. I guess some race fans do. It's a non-motorized mechanical horse that jockeys use for exercise, and you have to use the same motion, and you're pulling at the reins, the head's going back. You've probably seen it on one of the shows. I mean, I don't know if there's too many jocks rooms around the country that don't have one in there for a lot of the jockeys to stay loose. Kind of like a guy swinging a bat in the batting cage underneath the stadium before he goes out onto the field.
Yeah, I haven't been to a racetrack in almost anywhere. And then it was really fun. I found this little cute Irish show. This little boy, oh my gosh, Frankie couldn't be any more than 14 years old in the video, right? The horse, racing the horse in Ireland. And there's an Equicizer. It shows a shot. There's a shot at night. It's shot real artistically. It's out in the dark and looking through the lit window. And here's the little boy jamming away on one of Frankie's Equicizers. And I was like, oh, I got to show Frankie. And it's on the edge of it's on some seaside village in Ireland where they race the horses on the beach. It was really beautiful.
You have these all over the world, don't you, Frankie?
All over the world.
Yeah, and the thing is, like Julie mentioned, I mean, like horse racing is the foundation of how this business started. But I make horses for all riders now, including those with disabilities. It's very popular in the therapeutic riding community, so I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, I could see that. I imagine, I don't know, some people might get it just for exercise. That you're not even a jockey. You're a 185-pound guy that wants to jump on it and, work your arms because it works your arms.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you don't have to ride it like it.
Wait,
go ahead, Joey.
No,
I was just going to say you don't have to ride it like a jockey. That's it's basically it's an exercise that you can ride it from the seat or you can ride it out of the saddle like a jockey would. Either way, it's a great fun exercise.
How did you come up with this? I know you had a broken leg, I believe. Is that right?
Yeah.
And you were sidelined with a broken leg, and you're working this is basically, you needed something to rehab yourself and get all the muscles working again to get back into shape to ride again. And that's how you came up with this, I believe?
Well, basically, so just a little step before then, I always mess with wood, working with wood and making things. And so we're because you mentioned my dad being a jockey, I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up in the suburbs. Mm-hmm. And, there I used to pretend my bicycle was my horse, basically. But the frustration of not being able to ride and just really aching to get to spend time in the saddle, I would make things out of wood. Nothing like this, but the Equicizer now, but contraptions. So in 81, when I fractured my leg, I lost the mobility in my left leg, and the doctor was even concerned I may not race again because he wasn't sure I was going to get that movement back. And so going through rehab and state-of-the-art facilities that had nothing that would simulate what I needed. And I just basically, I had a friend of mine, I was still on crutches. I had a friend of mine that was also handy. And I drew him a picture. I said, could you help me make this? And that's how I made my first horse. So with just a bunch of scrap wood and carpet and a spring from a junkyard, I put this thing together, and it worked. And when my doctor finally was able to give me the okay to ride a real horse, he said that he was very impressed with my condition and my movement and strength I had. And he says, well, you can start riding again. And I chuckled and I said, well, I've been riding for 3 months already, with my wooden horse. And that was, that's a huge thing. If you could actually work on your the muscles you need, the flexibility, the fitness that you need before you have to get on a horse.
Yeah.
It was an amazing, simple concept. I was able to do it before I put myself in any sort of real danger on a real horse.
Talking with Julie Krone and Frankie Lovato Jr., they have done a great job with Junior Jockey Camp. It's introducing people, introducing kids to the world of horse racing, be it they want to learn to be a hot walker, they want to learn to eventually be an exercise rider or a jockey, whatever the situation, they're introduced to it. And there's a book out called One Sweet Ride. Julie Krone won thousands of races, but her Del Mar victory was a classic, and it's written by her very talented husband, Jay Hubdy, along with Julie. Huh?
Very talented.
Very talented. Is he standing close by? Hello, hello, Jay. No, he is very talented. And Jenny Craig, you mentioned Jenny Craig. I think people know she was kind of like the original weight loss queen, wasn't she? She's the one I remember most that would say, come to Jenny Craig, you want to lose weight. This was kind of before Weight Watchers and Nutrisystem and everything.
Exactly. It was the very first one. It was before it even became like, a thing, and people needed help too. Like it was genuinely, it gave her a lot of satisfaction. There was a lot of people who wanted to lose weight and felt like it would have helped them in their lives and were discouraged by it. And then she gave them a lot of hope and a lot of success stories about people who lost weight in a healthy way and learned new habits and just felt better about themselves. So it was kind of a nice thing to share with people.
And they had a wonderful relationship, Sid and Jenny, with Ron McAnally and the Hall of Fame trainer. And I mean, there's so many great.
And then Ron's story about being an orphan.
Oh,
I mean, you know what I mean? Oh, it's just the whole book. It's just really. I love Frankie's quote when he was talking about how he loves the book because it reminds him of what he loves about horse racing. This is the true story of all the things coming together and being like, oh, whoa, what a great story. Oh, and that candy ride, he is so fun to ride.
Yeah.
Cute little cheeks and his little pointy ears, and he had such a personality. And, you could ride him with shoestrings. He was so smart and light, and he hardly even pulled on the bridle. He was just beautiful.
That's one of the things I've always liked about horse racing is just what you mentioned there, Julie, the layers to this story, the owner, the trainer, the jockey, the horse himself, everything that goes into getting a horse ready. And I think that's a big appeal, and that's one thing that we always try to emphasize on this show is personalities like you and like Frankie. Your husband Jay's been on the show before. The people that are involved with it that you may know or may not know a whole lot about, and get that out there, because I still think, to me, that's what is going to keep people coming back, is when they learn the many layers that can go around with any story about a horse.
Yes, exactly. And it does have many layers often.
And you can buy this book again right now, and the proceeds will help junior jockey camps.
Correct. Jenny donated all the books. And you go to jockeyworld.org, and you click on One Sweet Ride. And that's the only place you can purchase the books. And if anybody's in a position, obviously, that they would like it autographed, that's absolutely possible to have that done.
Thank you, by the way. I have my autographed copy. I'm holding up now. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing it. Trust me, if you're just listening, it is very nice.
Well, we should have Frankie, we should have a giveaway on Jockey World, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could give away let's give away 5 books or something.
Okay.
JockeyWorld.org, right? It would be on the front. Are you going to do your computer thing, how you put it up on the website?
Yeah, we can discuss how we can do that.
Okay, perfect. Certainly. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a giveaway, because that always draws people and is fun to share and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look at Frankie's. Frank. Oh, go ahead, Frankie.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention, as far as, one of the big parts of Jockey World is educating our youth and helping create for kids that want to get into horse racing, a path. But also, it's also about fan education, and because I believe, just like your show here, the more people understand horse racing, the more they will enjoy it. and that's a big part of what Jockey World is about as well.
No, I totally agree. That's why, we always pump it. Some of my friends say, hey, I subscribe to the show, okay? I've already liked it on YouTube. I said, I know. Tell more of your friends to like it on YouTube because, as you know, you all know this world. I mean, I'm still getting used to all this social media, but it's so important these days. And not a lot of horse people are into social media. We've had Baffert and Pletcher and Lucas and pretty much everybody. Now there's a few like Julie and a few others that have, Gary Stevens and John Velasquez that have significant followers. Brittany Earton, I think, has the most of anybody I know in horse racing. But
Donna Brothers.
Donna been on her show. I'm actually going to a thing, and they're honoring her at Keeneland on Friday night, Julie. I'll be there for that.
What are they giving her? What award?
I don't know. I think just for being Donna Brothers, which is well deserved.
I don't blame them. I think that's exactly
I know.
deserving.
I think we're going to talk to her about it next week. But yeah,
she's a rock star.
Yeah.
She makes being like a girl jockey, the girl in racing, cool again.
Yeah.
They all do. Earton and all those girls. There's something else.
Yeah, but again, that's the whole point. Is we're just keep trying to get the point across, like you guys are doing right now, and try to get people to like and subscribe and follow and all the things that are important in the social media world to help continue to move forward with all the endeavors.
As far as social media goes too, the TDN is really good for news and they did a really good story on Junior Jockey Camp.
Yeah, I read that.
If you go to juniorjockeycamp.com or jockeyworld.org or to the TDN, and if you want to keep updated in racing, you should definitely be, on the TDN and get that every day.
And feel free to go crazy and tweet the living out of this show, by the way, both of y'all. That'd be good.
Yes, definitely.
At Horse Racing Show. Hey, listen, I can't thank you all enough. Julie, always good to have you with us. Frankie, it's been a long time, and it's great to catch up. And
it is great to have him back.
Yes.
I'm so happy that he came to camp and showed his beautiful face, and I'd be up there all stumbly, blah, blah, blah with my words, and Frankie'd be talking to like a professor, and I was just like, oh my God, his teaching is so beautiful. So I have a lot to learn from him. So, I appreciate him sharing his jockey camp.
Oh yeah, thank you. Best wishes with the future success of Junior Jockey Camps, Julie Krone and Frankie Lovato. Again, One Sweet Ride is the book. It's a terrific read. Naturally, it's written by Jay Hovde with Julie Krone. Thank you all for being with us, and I'm sure we'll catch up again here on the Horse Racing Show, okay?
Happy trails.
Happy trails. Thank you very much, Julie, Frankie. Thank you all.
Frankie.
Stay with us. More coming up here on episode 36. Wow, 36 episodes of the Horse Racing Show and more to come. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for watching us on the YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, listening to us on Facebook or one of the many outlets like Google Play and iTunes, and heard now in 17 countries as well as throughout the U.S. A man who's probably been to every country we're listened in is Tom Ludt, a well-known and respected executive in horse racing from the Breeders' Cup to Santa Anita, and now the president of Phoenix Thoroughbreds, and he joins us from somewhere out in Southern California. Tom, my friend, thanks for being on with me.
It's a pleasure to be on here. I'm glad to see you're doing so well.
Yeah, this has been fun to catch up with old friends and talk a little bit about it. And I think, Tom, that there's even people that hang around the track that are out there, online betting every day, like my cousin Johnny, that, they hear about people, but they don't get to talk to them or hear from them other than, read something in the form or keep up with the horse itself. So I think it's kind of good to get people together. And that's kind of what you're doing now with Phoenix Thoroughbreds, right? In a different kind of way, yeah.
Yeah, it's an organization that sprouted out of the ground just less than 3 years ago, and boy, have we grown.
Wow, I mean, it's like a phoenix. It not only has it risen, it's taken flight here.
Yeah, listen, it's something that people probably don't understand the magnitude of the size, because in 3 years we're up over 300 horses because we're so worldly, and I think a lot of people probably don't follow the Australian market or even as much the European market, but it's been a great challenge, and I am traveling all over the world.
And I believe this is right. Like Phoenix, unlike some that started here in the States, this actually did not start in the U.S. Is that right?
Yeah, Amr Abdulaziz, who started Phoenix, is Dubai-based, and it was his plan from before my time, and he he set this thing up as an investment fund, which makes it quite unique. I don't get really involved in that part of it, but it is an investment fund where he's trying to bring people into the game, much like you see in these racing syndicates, but we're just very larger and more diversified, I think, than most funds or racing partnerships.
And that, I was going to say, that isn't even the future now of racing. It is the current of racing, and probably will continue on, that there's going to be like investment groups or some kind of group ownership. I'm not sure how many individual owners or individual farms we're going to see in the next 5 or 6 years with horses.
Yeah, and if you notice that the sales results at Keeneland, you're seeing more and more people partner up, which, when I ran Vinery, Tommy Simon was the owner, and he was very reluctant to do that because, traditionally, and it's just in general terms, a lot of these wealthy individuals want to have control and do their own thing, and that kept the market extremely high. Not that it wasn't extremely competitive this year, but you're seeing people that would have bought these horses individually teaming up, which is kind of restricting a little bit at the top, but probably making it healthier for everybody long term.
Well, I was going to ask if there's the end game, obviously, is to keep getting good horses, try to get out to the track, try to win some races. But I don't know if there's really much of a downside in this because, if I want to put up so much money, then basically I'm only going to lose so much money as if I'm investing in the whole enchilada, basically.
Well, that's exactly right. And I've tried to convince Amr to continue to do more of that. I mean, it allows you to spread your risk into more horses. I mean, this is unfortunately a numbers game, no matter how hard you work at it. If you look at the best of the best, I mean, the best trainers are winning at 30%. The best horses don't even win at that. Very few go undefeated. So if you look at this game and you back it up and you look at how to best, put together a business model, I believe partnerships is a wise move. It just allows you to spread your risk. And listen, I was very fortunate at Vinery when we hit with More Than Ready, and how many of those horses come along? They cover a lot of bad decisions or horses that just don't pan out for you.
Yeah, it's an attrition game, no doubt, isn't it? You just got to. That's one of the reasons I guess they call it the sport of kings, isn't it? I mean, you and I could probably buy a horse, and we may get lucky. We may be the Sakatoga stable boys and have funny side for what, 16,000 or something like that, maybe. But for the most part, you're going really against the odds.
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, this is the game that does bring equality to the bidding. I mean, at the end of the day, if money bought the game, it would have been controlled. But it is a sport of kings from a volume standpoint. But what makes this game great is, it's funny looking back. I was just reading where that maiden 16 claimer that Maximum Security and the other horse both ran in that race. I read the article. It said it might be the most famous $16,000 claiming race ever. So, I mean, that's the dream. If you claim the horse like that and you end up with something that's worth millions of dollars, it brings people into this game because once the horse is bought, it's all equal when you get on the track.
With Tom Ludt. He's been from the Breeders' Cup, president of Vinery at Santa Anita, now president of Phoenix Thoroughbreds. From the many experiences you've had in horse racing, Tom, was this something you thought you'd be doing at an executive level at a relatively young age you'd get started like you did?
I would have never believed I'd be traveling the world buying horses for an international syndicate group. That's for sure. A guy from Youngstown, Ohio, spending time in Australia, Ireland, France, England, and all over the States. And now obviously companies based in Dubai. It's quite the whirlwind.
What have you noticed? Is there similarities with U.S. racing? Not particularly the surfaces, I realize that, but like the ownership groups, and is there kind of a common thread that'll link from the U.S. to Dubai to Australia, people that are interested in the sport?
No, that's probably the hardest thing that I've had to adapt to. I mean, if you pick on Australia, like right now, all our 2-year-olds are being broken, and they do these trials that are not official races. Mm-hmm. And they just race very differently. They'll race intensely for maybe 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and then they'll turn them out. So it's very, very different in Europe or in Australia. It is all turf, but they'll run them and then they'll give them breaks. And you'd like to think that's probably healthy for the horses, but it's not something that can really be done anymore in America, although you can always give a horse's layup. But, living out here in California, all of our facilities have kind of disappeared. It's just because of the value of land. But so Australia is very different. America's got so much racing and there's so much ability to ship around now. Yeah. So it's very different. And then in Europe, you talk about the sport of kings, you got to have a tough wallet over there because unless you get to the top level, you're running for very small numbers. I mean, these maidens are $10,000 pounds over there. So it's challenging when you're spending the money equivalent to the money here and running for those purses in Europe. So they're very, very different, and it takes a while to change your brain when you go to different markets.
Is it different emphasis as well? I mean, speed is such a thing now, breeding for speed in the U.S. Do you see that as much in Europe and the rest of the world?
Not in Europe. In Europe, it's really. I mean, I'd say that they're probably slowly getting into that way, but it's such a different race. They tend to rate and wait, and they run late. Where in Australia, it's all speed. I find it fascinating that the biggest race in the world down there is the Melbourne Cup, and yet they love 5 furlong 2-year-old speed, and it's a long race. Same thing here, though. If you look at it, if you ask any owner, what do they want to win? They want to win the Kentucky Derby, 1.25 miles, and yet we continue to breed for speed.
Yeah. I think that has
crazy.
I know. I think that a lot to do, too, with horses that don't hold up as well. But, that's an unscientific approach. I know everybody can debate that, why you don't have. But it also, the breeding business is so lucrative now. It's just almost impossible for a good 3-year-old to come back as a 4-year-old. Forget 5-year-old, isn't it? Just because of the money that's on the table.
Well, yes, and then I will tell you, I'm quite intrigued by, I think, the Pegasus, and I think the Saudi World Cup. Obviously, we're a worldly based company, but
yeah.
when you look at that, and then you look at the Dubai World Cup, and you look at the purse structure in Kentucky, and I've had this conversation recently. I think it's encouraging that you can keep horses in training now, and especially if you have a great horse, you can make as much money racing, which I think will help our industry as much as you can in the breeding shed. So I think there's a small turn to that, which I think is very healthy. I will tell you, Australia racing, I love, and it's very lucrative down there. Their purse structure is extremely strong. And you're seeing that really. I mean, it's one of my concerns living in California. I mean, I'm from Kentucky, but
right.
The California market's really being challenged because obviously we've had some issues out here. And at the same time, this Kentucky and New York market is so strong, and Oakland's going to even be stronger again. So the supplemental money makes it very difficult on states that don't have it to be competitive.
Well, you mentioned California. I want to bring this up because I know you used to be with the Stronach Group and with Santa Anita, and we know all about their problems, and they're still going to keep the Breeders' Cup. They voted unanimously, the Breeders' Cup did, to keep it there. I thought that was big to kind of give the seal of approval. I think it would have been just awful for racing in what's been a terrible publicity year to not have the races at Santa Anita.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I'm no expert on it, but being so involved in the industry, we're under such a microscope in California, much more than I think we would be in what I would consider more friendly equine states of Kentucky and New York. So it was a statement of, confidence, and it was giving the Californians and hopefully the thoroughbred industry a vote of confidence to do that. And let's just hope we have a great weekend.
And some crazy things happened, like the whole deal that came out, and we discussed this last week with Mary Scalay and Graham Motion about the whole deal that came out with Justify, 15 months after he won the Triple Crown. I'm just kind of amazed somehow that these stories get the run that they do. It's gone now for the most part, but he got 2 or 3 days of big build-up about old conspiracy theorists coming out and everything else. Sometimes I think horse racing almost eats its own. I'd like to see somebody come out and say, you know how nuts this is? 600 nanograms and an 1,100-pound horse? Let's break it down first before we delve more into this.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest challenge, I think, for our industry. The good news is I was busy at the sales, so I didn't get caught up in reading all that stuff, because I always think that we now have a media game that it's a race to first without necessarily having the whole story. Now, the story broke many months later, but I never really got the whole details. But I think it's funny you bring that up. I've always said this, especially the last few years. We're the only industry that seems to love to promote all the negativity and not the positive. And it just, I just would love to see us come together. And, there's always been this talk about a commissioner or some kind of home office. And I just think it's something that we're missing. I mean, I just read where, I forget the singer now, she was going down to the Melbourne Cup, and she's not going now because the animal rights activists got after her.
Yeah, we were talking about Taylor Swift, who's probably as big a name as anybody in the entertainment world. And it looks like that's the reason she's not going to do the Melbourne Cup is the PETA pressure and these groups that I think are just, for good that they do, they ignore so many other good things, and I think they forget how many people are involved in horse racing behind the scenes. Everybody's not the multimillionaire. You got all the track workers and things, and to me, sometimes PETA dismisses that jobs will be gone if they try to abolish horse racing like they want to.
Well, that to me is the epitome of our challenge, because I think you're exactly right. I mean, I look at, you look at the NFL with the concussion issues, whatever that was 3 or 4 years ago, and there were people saying the NFL's over and what's thriving. And I think it's exactly right. We don't have a unified message. I mean, listen, unfortunately, you have horses break down, but airplanes crash, people have car accidents. There are issues, and you're starting to see IM horse racing infomercials getting out there, but it's on such a small basis of all the things we do with just a national or international campaign of exactly what you said. The people in this industry, the love for animals, the jobs, the economy issues, but we don't have a unified body. And that's one of these things, especially in America, just the fact that we're not regulated by one body and we don't have a unified message, it hurts us, because these other organizations, PETA included and many other ones, they're very, very focused. They have a mission and they stick to the mission, and we're all over the place, and therefore we get beat up, in my opinion.
Talking with Tom Ludt, who's president of the Phoenix Thoroughbreds. He's worked with the Breeders' Cup, was president at Vinery, maybe when I first met him several years ago. Worked at Santa Anita, is well known in the industry throughout the world. And so, these are issues that I think are very important right now. One of the things I hope comes out of the New York Times story, and I can't blame, the New York Times ran the story, okay? A guy on the California Horse Racing Board out there gave them the story, so they ran it. You can't get mad at the messenger always. But what I would hope would happen, Tom, and kind of I think we're on the same path here, is, like you say, I'm not sure we'll ever have a commissioner, but wouldn't it be nice to at least get together some of the more respected vets and people in racing and have like a board that at least would have unified rules for drug testing, and it's pretty transparent. But when stories like comes out, about last week, it looks like there's something to be hidden all the time, like there's still this under the table thing that's going to happen that nobody's supposed to know about. And I think if they had some kind of board where everybody, like California, Arkansas, Louisiana, New York, Kentucky, Florida, whatever, they had the same rules for regulating medicine, would be huge.
And listen, I think it's our biggest challenge. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I know you're a big sports guy. I'm a big sports guy. And you look at, I remember when the NBA started talking about getting into the gambling, and you think about professional sports in Nevada and the changes. I mean, God rest his soul, Bob McNair gave a speech back many years ago, and I was in the TOBA board about the forward pass decision in the NFL, and I thought it was interesting how he related to adapting to today's world, and we're not. I mean, I was at a dinner last night, and I was telling somebody who ran the track, and never thought about this. You go to Vegas, if you're a big bettor, you got credit. The track business is 100% cash, and there's just so lack of innovation. And you look at I've got children that are in their 20s, that everything's Venmo and on the phone, and we're still a business that's printing the racing form and charging for it. And the lack of innovation is really throttling our business, in my opinion. But yet you look at the sales this past 2 weeks, and it was phenomenal. So there's always hope. I just wish that we could give up control, and that there's been initiatives set out there. I know the Jockey Club's got one, NTRA had one, TOBA's had one, but we've yet to let the gauntlet down and say, you know what, we're going to give a governing body the authority to make us great. And until that happens, we're going to continue to have these struggles.
No, I totally agree. I told one of the guys that was in the NTRA one time, was asking me about my cage fighting coverage. I said, well, it's MMA, and trust me, MMA's getting paid millions of dollars, first by Fox, now by ESPN, to show them. They're paying them. They're not having to be underwritten. And I said, in some ways, you need a guy like Dana White. Not totally, but, when MMA first started, and they would ask Dana all this stuff, he came right back at him. He never apologized for their sport. I think racing, I would at least take that model, not as profane and not as in your face, but quit apologizing for horse racing. I think that's the way that the leaders should start approaching it, in my opinion.
I agree, and it's a hot button. And I'm not a NASCAR guy, but you look what happened when Dale Earnhardt crashed. I would assume the largest figure in NASCAR, and it was very unfortunate. So they made dramatic changes, and I'm sure there were negative people or negative thoughts out there. But I assume NASCAR is still doing well. And you look at the changes that take place in any industry. Look what Uber's done to the taxi service. I mean, there's just so many things. And then you look at our changes are minor tweaks. And we just sooner or later are going to have to realize to be in front of people, it's television. I learned this when I got on the Breeders' Cup board. I mean, unfortunately, people don't know this, but we pay to be on television other than the Triple Crown.
Yeah.
Where every other sport gets paid millions of dollars to advertise. And it's because eyeballs. And we're losing those eyeballs, and eyeballs drive advertising. And these are changes that are drastic. They're not going to be easy, and it's going to be painful for some. But you bring up that Dana White. I think it's just hilarious that I'm from originally Youngstown, Ohio, where boxing was big. And I don't know my years, but maybe 15 years ago, boxing was becoming not cool or barbaric, and it was going to be faded away. And now we have MMA, which is brutality on television, selling like crazy. So anything's possible.
Well, here's my take on it. When some of the horse people ask me, of course, I cover basketball too and a few other things, but I am known for some of the MMA for a show we did on Mark Cuban's network for a long time. And like I said, if the fight's lousy, there's going to be another one in 15 minutes. And trust me, young people don't want to come and wait at the racetrack for 30 minutes between a show. They may like stats and all, but they can look that up on their phone. Now, I realize for those of us who are not so tech savvy like me, you like that 30 minutes between the races. It doesn't bother you. But, young people, I don't care how many pretty faces are on TV and how happy everybody is at the track and all the social part, and that's very important. But I do think there's got to be a way to come up with apps or something else and move the action on for young people, in my opinion.
Well, and, there's a lot smarter people than me out there, and I agree with you. But I do think we've missed the boat for years of allowing people to understand you can come to horse racing and as entertainment.
Yeah.
There can be the social life. And, some of these, if you go down to the big races, I've always wished we'd have a big Saturday once a month in America and just focus on it.
Yeah.
Just to drive the eyeballs and make it bucket list events. I mean, people always talk about the Kentucky Derby and
always,
the Breeders' Cup. And I just think those are the ways you have to start. But people have to know that you can come and not bet or lay down a few dollars and get lucky. And we need to promote the gambling of it. For so many years, I think we've hidden that horse racing's gambling, and gambling's taking over America. I mean, you're damn near a casino of some sort within a couple hours anywhere in the United States.
Yeah, and you can start making sports bets at a couple of 3 states outside of Nevada now. You can go in and lay. You can go in and lay or take the points this weekend.
Look at someone like you that. Knowing you said a few years ago, I don't want to age you, buddy, but it's been a lot more than a few years ago.
But we were kids, Tom, both of us. We were kids, yes.
But look at what you've exposed yourself to. Would you have ever thought the sports that you get involved in, and look at the diversity and the experience that you have. And do we ever come to you and ask you, what do you think makes this sport work different? We don't ever get outside of our box. And that's what I think is the challenge for horse racing.
No, I appreciate that, Tom. And to be honest, I think guys like you and me should be running some of these boards. And I'm serious.
I did that for a while.
Well, I know you don't need that.
It's a lot of work.
You don't need that. I would love to have some input, not from an egotistical standpoint, but like you say, because I remember I was up in Edmonton, Alberta, doing an MMA fight, and sadly, it was after the 8 Bells tragedy at the Derby. This guy comes up to me. He's probably 6'4". He's going to be he's a heavyweight fighter, probably like 230, all tatted up and just, a brute of a guy. And I'm thinking, wonder why he's approaching me for. And he comes up and he said, man, I broke down when that filly went down. I cried. And I thought, now you'd see this guy, and most of these horse racing guys, and some of them are still ambulatory, but let's face it, some of them aren't. They'd be sitting around and look at a guy like that and just poo-poo him for the way he looks. And, there's a lot of guys out there that like animals. They just like horses and dogs and, they watch races. They may not know anything about it, but they like the sport. And that's what I try to get across.
Well, and I think, there's some momentum going. It's just on such a small basis, but you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, people love animals, and it's just a sad situation that people don't believe that the quality of care that goes into it. We get one bad apple, which there's a bad apple in every industry in the world.
Right.
I mean, but we get one bad apple, and that's all you read about, instead of the thousands of people that get up and work hard labor because they love these animals. And, you and I see it because I'm on the backside all the time, and you go to these farms, but we just for some reason haven't been able to reach out and expose that because we get throttled into the negativity. And it's just a shame because the beauty of horses is just magnificent. That's why I love it so much.
and going to the Mahoning Valley River Club. I went there. I was calling Ohio Valley Conference basketball games back in the 80s when I was a kid. And I remember they took me there, and we had great Italian food, and we played bocce ball in the back. And there was a life-size poster of Ray Boom Boom Mancini. And up in the corner of that was a postcard-sized picture of the Pope. And several years later, I had the pleasure of working with Ray on some fight series that we were doing on NBC. And I mentioned to him that, and he said, yes, he had been there several times, and yes, he had seen that picture. And I said right away, Mancini is bigger than the Pope here in Youngstown. I love this place.
And that's exactly right. I used to watch him as a kid. He used to fight in the gyms down there. And for a while there, he was living out here in Santa Monica. He's now back in Youngstown. But it's just, he's a classic story of what boxing did, and we have that in horse racing. We just need, I hate to preach about it, but we just need a central body that's driving this message like every other major sport does. I mean, I made a joke about it the other night. I was at a Dodgers game. I'm not a baseball guy, but you go there and 80% of the people have some kind of Dodgers gear on. The stadium is full.
Yeah.
And horse racing to me is so much more enjoyable. But, we all have our passions. We just have to drive people to be exposed to it to see if it becomes their passion.
Yeah, and I think telling the stories, I still think a lot of it is telling people stories, letting them know about people. And then you got either rooting for or against interest. You're going to either root for Bob Baffert or against him, or for Pletcher or against him, or John Velasquez. I think the human element is always going to be there. The great horses, like I've had friends ask me, what happened to Justify? Well, trust me, the money that was put on the table, they retired him. He ain't going to ever make that.
You're right.
But Baffert's going to be back. Pletcher's going to be back. Pick your, Chad Brown is going to be back. You got to pick your spots there, I think.
Well, I agree, and there's nothing wrong with rooting against just to win or lose. I mean, look at sports. I mean, that's what it's all about. You have people that love the Cowboys or hate the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Bob, we have horses with Bob. I have horses with Steve. I've had horses with Chad. It's okay to say you're going to root for them or against them. That's just part of the game, and that's what drives competition. It's what drives gambling. Let's face it, you're betting for or betting against.
Yeah,
that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's really not personal when there's money involved, is it?
That's exactly right.
Hey, Tom, I know you got to head overseas, right, for Phoenix Thoroughbreds this week. You're on the go always.
Yep. Head out Friday for the golf sale in Ireland, then straight over to England for the Tattersall sales. So it's nonstop with Team Phoenix.
Well, listen, I really appreciate your time and love to have you come back on, and we'll catch up again soon, I hope.
Anytime, Kenny. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Tom Ludt, what a wonderful guy. Been a great executive on many levels. President of Phoenix Thoroughbreds. We'll be back with more of the Horse Racing Show right after this. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. Thank you for being with us again this week. Thanks to Julie Krone, Frankie Lovato Jr., and Tom Ludt. Thank you for entering our contest to win dinner for two at J. Alexander's locations throughout the country, all the way up from Michigan, coming down through the Midwest to the Mid-South, all the way down to Florida. And remember, we still have 2 more weeks where we're giving away dinner for two. Gave one away last week. The winner this week is from Deerfield Beach, Florida. Carol N. is the winner. Carol, congratulations down in Deerfield Beach, Florida. Locations of J. Alexander's in Palm Beach, Jacksonville, Boca Raton, and Plantation. So plenty to choose from down there. And Carol in Deerfield Beach, Florida with the win this week. Keep entering, everyone. We still have 2 more weeks to go in our J. Alexander Dinner for Two giveaway. If you go in there and you choose the steak and the crab cakes and all that, it's well over $100, and it's a great dinner. I go several times a week to the one here in my home area. Thomas, we also have the fan giveaway is now underway, and we're like 2 weeks away from drawing for that.
That's right. It's been underway for about 2 weeks. We got 2 weeks left on this giveaway. It's completely free to enter, just like the J. Alexander's giveaway. This fan is valued at about $900, as you can see over Kenny's shoulder. It's not a industrial fan. It's a consumer-grade fan that you would, put on your ceiling, about 52 inches in diameter. We're giving away one that's white and one that's black. So stay tuned after we give away this first fan. There's going to be another giveaway as well.
And so you can start entering now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Enter now for the giveaway for the fan, for the Big Ass Fan, and for the Jay Alexander's Dinner for Two coupons. We still have 2 more of those to give away.
And for those of you who entered the Jay Alexander's giveaway, your entries still count.
Thank you.
You don't have to re-enter.
But you can. But you can. Throw it in as many as you want. Tell your friends. Tell to subscribe and like us on YouTube as well. All right. Well, I think we've solved the problems of the thoroughbred world again this week. At least in our minds we have. And we thank you for sharing it with us. Thomas, Scott, Ben, thank you. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We'll talk next week on episode 37 of the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Take care, everyone.
Wow.